This is the price of rice in Indonesia on 2010, and this is the price on 2022. The price of this main commodity in Indonesia was increased about 82% for about 10 years.
Harga beras di Surabaya, Jawa Timur terus melambung.
Pemerintah mengakui adanya kenaikan harga beras yang terjadi dalam 3 minggu terakhir.
Beras naik hingga Rp1.000 per kilogram.
The increasing price of rice in Indonesia can be considered as a normal thing, because if we see what happened beyond this, we will see that not just only price of rice that increase, but all of prices of goods and services in our economy is also increasing over time. And this is what we know as inflation. According to Peterson, the word inflation in the broadest possible sense refers to any increase in the general price level which is sustained and non-seasonal in character. Or in simple words, inflation is the overall increase of prices. Inflation can be considered as a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on how much the inflation is. A good inflation rate about 1 to 3% every year is a good sign of an economic growth of a nation. It shows the purchasing power of the people in a nation is getting increased over time. But in other side, a high inflation rate could be considered as a disaster of the economy. Let's take a look at Venezuela.
In terms of international...
In 2016, Venezuela entered hyperinflation. The overall inflation rate from 2016 to 2019 has increased to 53,798,500% just in 4 years. And what happened is, when this hyperinflation occurred, is that the value of their money is getting weakened. This for an example, the Venezuelans make their money as souvenir, bracket, and even this. So, inflation could be a good thing or a disaster for a country. But the question is, how a country controls its inflation? Who controls it? Why and how? In today's video, we are going to talk a little bit about way to control inflation. We are going to talk about the money supply, a game that controls inflation. As I mentioned before, in today's video, there are several points that I want you to learn. First, I want you to understand about inflation. Second, I want you to know who controls inflation on a nation. And the third, I want you to know how do we control the inflation with our powerful weapon of money supply policies. These three main points will be our discussion in this video. So, let's jump to the first point, inflation. On this year, 2022, the United States of America has struck by a high inflation. It is the highest inflation in 4 decades of American inflation history. It increased about 8.3% in just 1 year. And this causes a huge problem in the economy. Inflation, as we spoke before, can be defined as something good or bad. It is somehow reflecting the growth of a nation's economy, or it can reflect the problem of economy. If we see the impact of inflation, inflation itself hurts the poor society the most. With the increasing overall price, inflation somehow can make the poor couldn't afford things like grocery, rent, and other things. Let's say the income of this guy is $12,000 a year. With that income, he could spend every $1,000 to pay his needs every month, like buy grocery, pay your rent, pay kids' school administration, clothing, and you name it. Let's say his overall spending is $1,000 every month. It means that his annual income of $12,000 is worth of 12 months of spending. With a high inflation, for example 10%, his annual income of $12,000 is no longer worth 12 months spending, because the $1,000 in the previous year now is worth of $1,000 and $100. And without the increase of income, this guy can't make it until the end of the year. Or in other words, this guy cannot afford to buy things, so he should spend less than before because of high inflation. The inflation itself is caused by several problems, but the main reason why inflation rate is getting increased is money supply. And this will bring us to the next point of understand who controls the money supply. In general, money supply is controlled by the central bank of a nation. Let's take a look of Indonesia. Indonesia itself has a central bank, which is Bank Indonesia. In their official site, Bank Indonesia has its main function. It says, Bank Indonesia is firmly committed to creating and maintaining rupiah stability through monetary and payment system management as well as financial system stability. Or in a simple word, Bank Indonesia has obligated to control this to be stabilized. So the answer of the second question of who controls the money supply is the central bank of a nation. Now we come to the last point of how do central bank controls the money supply. The controlling money supply is something that really important in the stability of economy. In overcoming the inflation, there are two policies that exist in the world. First is the fiscal policy, and the second is the monetary policy. In this video, we are going to discuss more detail about monetary policy that controlling money supply. Money supply itself has a definition of this. It is all the currency and other liquid instruments in a country economy supplied on the date measured. The money supply roughly includes both cash and deposits that can be used almost as easily as cash. The economists, however, have classified money into three categories. First is M1. It is also called narrow money. It includes coin and notes that are in circulation and other money equivalent that can be converted easily to cash. Second, we have M2. It includes M1 and, in addition, short-term times deposit in bank and certain money market funds. And the third is M3 that includes M2 in addition to long-term deposit. This money is legally controlled by the central bank. To study how the demand and supply of money, that we see it by chart that we will see on the Excel. Okay, now we have the data on Excel. These columns are consisted of the interest rate, quantity demanded, and quantity supplied. To make the chart, we block this data, go to the insert, scatter, and click it. First, we notice that the chart is upside down. The interest rate needed to be here, and the quantity of money needed to be here. We need to put the interest rate on y-axis and the quantity of money on x-axis. So what we are going to do now is to fix it. How do we fix it? First is we right click on this chart, go this select data, and then let's just remove these two variables first. After removing these variables, we will see a blank chart. Now we go to add, input the name as quantity demanded, select this quantity demanded data as the y-axis, and then after that we do the same with the x-axis. We select the interest rate data. Then we will do so with the quantity supplied. We go to add, input the name as quantity supplied, select this quantity supplied data as the y-axis and interest rate as the x-axis. Good, now we have data. To make this more detailed, we go to this plus button, click it, and activate the axis title. We name this as interest rate, and we name this as quantity of money. So we have this interest rate and quantity of money. We add the title as supply and demand for money. So now we have the chart. What does this chart tells us? First, as we can see here, the demand of money is just like a regular demand in goods and services. And the difference is only in here. We have interest rate instead of price in the y-axis and money quantity in the x-axis. If the interest rate goes high, for example 5%, people will tend to save their money to the bank so they can get a higher interest. They would say like, hey, the bank interest is high, let's save our money. And by saving their money to the bank, they are reducing the quantity of money demanded. In other side, if the interest rate goes down, people will say, hey, I want to withdraw my money. The interest rate is too low. It is better to buy stocks or property instead of saving money in bank. So by withdrawing their money, the quantity demanded is increased. But do you know that this curve can be shifted from here to here or from here to here? Why? There are several shifters of this demand curve. First, it is the price level. If the price goes high, people will need more money to spend. So it causes an increase in quantity of money, and this curve will be shifted to here and so on. The second is income. If the overall income of people goes high, the curve will shift because they have an increase in purchasing level. And the third is technology. The increasing of credit card and something like it has decreased the amount money demanded, and it caused the shifted to this curve. Beside this demand curve, we also have supply curve. You notice the supply curve is vertical. It means that this curve is not have something to do with the interest rate. If the interest rate goes up, this will not shift to anywhere. If it goes down, it would still on its place. This supply curve is only shifted by the policy that central bank and government make. If they want to increase the supply, they can easily make money. If they want to decrease, they simply take, destroy, or do other policies to make the circulation of money goes down. Let's take a look for an example. Let's say that our country is on inflation, so it means that we need to decrease the circulation of money, and by that we decrease the inflation. What we will do is we decrease the amount of supply by some policies. Let's say we decrease from 50 to 40. Let's make the curve. On the other side, if our country is on deflation, it means we need to supply more money in the circulation. What we will do is we increase the amount of money supply by, let's say, 50 to 60. Let's make it. So now we have quantity supply 1 and quantity supply 2. What makes this curve shifted from quantity supply to quantity supply 1 or 2 is the policy that central bank makes. First, reserve requirement. Second, discount rate. And the third, open market obligation. So, it is all how the central bank controls the money supply. I hope this video will help you to understand more about the economy. And see you in another video. If you like this, please like. And if you like this channel, please subscribe. Thank you.